Welcome to Ticker Talk with hosts Max and Kate, podcasting from TreeTown in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ticker Talk shares the everyday success stories and science behind the heart rate-based functional aerobic fitness training practiced at CrossFit TreeTown. Max and Kate explore the research, science, and practical experiences behind Ticker Training, a program developed by Max for just about everyone, your grandma, your cousin who runs marathons, and you. In this series, we'll explore what exactly heart rate-based functional aerobic fitness is, how what you eat affects how you move and how you feel, what tools to use in tracking progress, and how to fit training into your everyday life. Join us and learn something new to make a healthier you. Pace yourself.
All right, you guys, thanks for coming tonight. I know I look super cool with this, but it's just so I can hear myself on camera. So in case Jen wants to assimilate this to the rest of you guys' crowd, so you guys can see what we're talking about tonight. And then just so you guys can review this a little bit. So Jen asked me to come and talk about our ticker programming. It's essentially just the programming that I do at CrossFit TreeTown that we've been doing now for about a year. Got really, really serious about it come January 1. And we're just having some phenomenal changes in what we're doing. And then my good friend Vaughn and I are always having conversations about training because we just like to geek out. And he was kind of learning and listening a little bit about what I was learning and practicing and doing. And I think Vaughn was feeling a little beat up. And he kind of was hearing me talk about how great I felt and how I was still performing at a high level. And got him thinking, and he's like, I want to hear more. And when was that? That was like...
that was August, late mid-August.
Yeah.
Actually, before that, you told me about it, but I didn't really kind of...
You got serious about it. You were kind of like, and I was like, okay, before we do anything, I want you to come do one of our metabolic tests. Yep. Okay, so before, I'm going to do my best. I've kind of got some guidance for this talk here with these slides, and I'm going to try not to stray from them too much. But I get really excited about what we're doing. And when I get to share it with a group of people, it's really awesome because my mission now in life is kill, no pain, no gain. It is 100% killing people, not doing you as much good as you could be doing if you're training on a progressive program. So anytime I get to share that with fellow CrossFitters, because I also understand I was no pain, no gain, and that's how I got quite fit at all of my sports throughout life. But I also saw all of them cut shorter than what they should have been, just through general overall fatigue and inability to continue to push. Okay, so the path that led me to you guys here tonight has been, started when I was running in high school and then on to college, and then when I started racing bikes and did that for a few years as a professional from in the early 2000s. And then when I started CrossFitting again in my, early mid 30s, all of that was pretty much no pain, no gain, right? And that has all evolved through this learning of just kind of being put in places because I'm supposed to be here now standing, kind of talking about this, right? So ticker training, it's just kind of the, we took a play off of, your heart is your ticker, right? So everything that we've been doing at our gym is based on your heart rate, right? So we now have heart rate monitors in our gym. Everybody's, puts a heart rate monitor strap on, and we not only measure, but we also give a lot of guidance in regards to that, okay? So before I get off target too much here, I'm just going to kind of talk about what is ticker training. Ticker training is a comprehensive health program that educates and coaches members on how to achieve optimal health through increased cardiac function, balanced nutrition, and improved metabolic efficiency. And this is what we are finding we're really, really good at right now, is teaching people how to be metabolically efficient with our programming. This program aims to use the latest science and optimal performance of the human body to empower members in achieving a rewarding and joy-filled life. Essentially what it is, it's a fitness program aimed at improving not only your health, but also your performance. And we're seeing both those things in our gym in just the short amount of time that we've been doing this. Our philosophy is the more metabolically efficient a person becomes, the healthier they feel. By measuring and systematically developing aerobic capacity, one will experience increased health, performance, strength, and cardiovascular improvements, all while advancing range of motion and movement patterns. Yes. Your ability to do more work with less effort, utilizing fat as a fuel source, right? So if you're able to, so I'll use this example, okay? So we have found through our PNOE system, our metabolic analysis, that you have an optimal heart rate for utilizing fat, which is your most, it's called your maximum aerobic function, okay? So that's where you're the most efficient at utilizing fat as a fuel source. For example, let's say the first time I say, hey, we're gonna row a 5K at your MAF, at your maximum aerobic function. Generally, this is a general term, and at how we started this, your maximum aerobic function is, you are jumping ahead on me, but I'll finish this, okay? Yeah, that's cool. No, so we have some people that have not done that as well, that have done just the training. So I'll get to that too. Cool. So for example, to kind of finish his question about how you see changes, let's say your MAF is 140 beats. So you would be what, 40 years old. So 180 minus your age, right? So you're going to row 5K at your MAF. Okay. Let's say the first time you do this, because generally speaking, CrossFitters are really bad at this. We walk into the gym and we are not aerobic. We grab anything because of how we've trained for, depending on how long you've been doing this. You walk in here and go threshold, right? Anaerobic threshold. And we'll talk more about that. But let's say this first time you do a 5K, your pace is 220 per 500 meters. Most everybody's going to raise their hand and say, that's pretty easy. No sweat, especially if you're a 6-foot male, 180 pounds. Like, that's a really, really easy effort. But let's say over time, you're training more and more and more and more at that 140 beats. We test you again. Let's say it's 3 weeks, 6 weeks later. You'll sit on the rower, do a 5K at your MAF again. Your pace might be 212 per 500 meters. Same output, right? At heart rate wise. But you're seeing how you're doing more work with less effort, right? This cannot be achieved without practicing it. Mostly. Some people, right, their essence, right? We know the difference between a 400-meter sprinter, a 100-meter sprinter, and somebody that does marathons, right? We get that those are different spectrums of power output, right? Endurance athlete, sprinter, right? So we'll come around to that again. Everybody still kind of with me? Yeah, did I lose you? Okay. All right. So before we get too far into this, I want to talk a little bit about health and what it kind of means to you guys and how that relates to managing stress and a little bit about innate intelligence, right, in our body, and inflammation and its role in your health. So I like to kind of start just a little bit. How do you guys define health? Vaughn, can you give me a help on that? How do you define health?
I usually like the CrossFit spectrum of sickness, right, wellness and fitness kind of idea, right? But for me, health is going to be having strong energy throughout the day, sleeping well, you're not hurting all the time. I think there's mental health part of it, right? So you're generally positive. So there's a lot of things against that.
Yeah. Is everybody kind of on that board? Like, health's kind of hard to define, right? It's almost a verb to me because, like, it's me in action, right? So I'll pick up where Vaughn left off. I like to define it as essentially, like, I'm not in any disease, right? Disease or dis-ease, meaning, I can, move all my range of motion, squat with no pain. I have good energy throughout the day where I'm productive. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I don't take 3 o'clock naps. I sleep through the night. I'm not a jerk to my wife. I'm patient with my kids, right? Does this all resonate with you guys about kind of like how we would, in general? What's that? Well, neither was I, right? So that's kind of where this talk is going to be around, is like, being fit and being healthy are not always the same, right? There's a middle ground there where you might have to give up a little bit of fitness short term to become a healthier individual. Okay. And like I kind of did, we have a little podcast and I talked about the other day is like how this all came about where I really started diving into this. I was training, or I had just done the open. I think I was 83rd in the world for the open for the 40 to 44. Kind of, I was in between that and the qualifier training, right? And my wife came down, met me at the gym, and we were going to go for a walk and get lunch. You know, and we're in Ann Arbor, and we kind of walked up to TreeTown, and I was like, "Man, baby, I gotta take a break." I was like, "I am way too fit to be out here walking with you right now." You know, and that was one sign. And I started like, "Man, this isn't good, right? What am I doing?" You know, I'm telling people and I'm teaching people that I want to CrossFit for life, and this is a long-term goal, and I want to do this forever. Like, I was lucky to do it tomorrow. You know what I mean? I was one thruster away from throwing my back out. You know what I mean? And the other thing that kind of struck a chord with me is, I don't know about you guys, but when I park, I never like, I'm always in a hurry. So I run into the store, right? And I remember I was running into Target to get some diapers. And I was like, man, almighty, and it was jog. Why is my heart beating so hard right now? Well, my body associated exercise, any kind of movement, with threshold work. So my adrenals turned on anytime I decided to move. My adrenals kicked on, my heart rate went to 150 beats almost. And that was me ready to take on the next WOD, even though I was just jogging into Target, right? So another kind of aspect of how this has come about, right? And now we'll try to stay on target. Sorry. Do you guys understand the term innate intelligence? It's something that my wife uses a lot in her chiropractic practice. Okay, innate intelligence is just your body's ability to understand and look for equilibrium, right? Homeostasis, right? Your body is constantly in a battle. Did I spell intelligence wrong? We were laughing about that earlier. Like your body wants to be in homeostasis, right? It wants to be healthy. So every time you do anything, you're taking it out of that. And that includes lots of times your food, waking up, driving your car. We're going to get back to inflammation here. I kind of have a thing here with stress, right? And I use this example of a cup being overfilled because I don't know about you guys, but where's the silver bucket? I think, I don't know. I don't have an exact number on this, but most of us live our lives. If this is our amount of stress that we can handle, right? Our cup, right? And let's say you have a good night of sleep and you wake up, your stress level is here, right? You didn't quite fully recover. If we're CrossFitting generally, let's be real, we probably wake up here, right? Okay, then you make your breakfast. Actually, wait, let's wake the kids up, right? Yell at them to get on time, get on the bus, right? You drive into traffic, you know, somebody rode your ass and you flipped them off. You know, kids have been at school for 3 hours, you get a call from the principal. You know, now for me, I'm not talking about me, right? You know, you get to work, right? You spend all day at work, you leave work, and you're kind of like living right in here, and you're just like, oh man, can't wait for my workout, right? Show up, CrossFit, then you pile some more on, right? And you think you're feeling better, but you're not. You're overstressing your system in general terms, right? Or maybe it was a nice workout, you kept yourself under control, you only went to 50%, and you didn't demoralize yourself that day. You went home and you slept, really good night of sleep, and you recovered to there, right? You guys see where I'm going with this, right? And how this just continues to fill. And when we keep adding stress and adding stress and adding stress and adding stress, it just pours over. And stress can be anything, right? I've just got work, relationships, family, driving, sleep, sick kids, teachers, coaches, food. When your food is a stress, that's a problem, right? Training, weather, chemicals, pesticides, GMOs, neighbors. I had to argue with my neighbor the other day. That's why that's up there. Alcohol, right? And the list goes on. And we could do this all day, right? When your glass is full of stress, what pours out? Life everywhere. Who's left to mop it up? Usually your wife. Significant other, right? Mom, dad, friends. Okay, I've got a thing up here about high intensity interval training and inflammation, right? What does stress cause, right? Stress is life, right? And to adapt and to grow, you have to stress, right? Your ability to handle stress is really a great measurement of health. Would you guys agree with that? Right? If you're thrown at a bunch of stuff, a bunch of things are happening in your life and you just kind of are able to let them bounce off, right? I feel like Vaughn's good at this, don't you guys? Just knowing him, like he just takes it on and leaves it. When you're not in an inflammatory state, you fight off disease, sickness, soreness, that last set of 10 toes to bars, that last thruster, much better. Does that all make sense with you guys? You guys understand, like, inflammation is necessary for healing, right? Your body has to get inflamed to help heal it. The problem is when you're living in constant inflammation, right? And you're never able to recover and stress from that. That constant inflammation is a glass full. Got it? Okay. Sugar, have to put sugar in there. It's a story about inflammation. Should your body need to recover from your food? I just put that as a question mark, right? If you think about it, right? If you eat and you feel like crap afterwards, that's inflammation, generally, trying to get rid of it, right? So you're having to recover from your food. It's already a stress. You've got to digest it, right? So even really good, clean food is still, there's stress on your body that you have to recover from, right? So, but when you add a whole bunch of extra carbohydrates, refined sugars, junk food, right? Can we just use the word junk food? Because, spinach, I mean, that's a carbohydrate, really a sugar, but we kind of understand the difference, right? I can't go much further without talking about aerobic training and anaerobic training. Everybody have some understanding of what the difference is between those two? Yes? No? Right? So aerobic training with oxygen, it's sustainable, utilize fat as a fuel source, it's efficient, low stress, long-term adaptation, it's enduring, low inflammation, and fast recovery. As opposed to anaerobic training, right? Without oxygen, non-sustainable, utilizes sugar, carbohydrate as primary fuel source, it's inefficient. Let's talk about why do I put that in there as inefficient. It's actually like a really easy fuel source to turn on, right? Like it's fast, it'll get you where you want to go really fast. Think about like gasoline in a car. If you use, let's just call it a gallon of gas to move forward, 70% of the energy produced for that gas to make the car go forward is lost in heat. Carbohydrates are the same way, right? So only 30% is propelling that car forward, right? Carbohydrates do the same thing in your body. They release a whole bunch of heat. You know when you've gone into more sugar than fat in your workout. It's when you start sweating more, right? It's when you're breathing heavy. So sugar releases more heat out of your system. What does heat cause? Anybody? Inflammation, right? So the more and more and more we go into this anaerobic training, the more and more and more we're increasing our inflammation, the more and more we have to recover. Got it? And the more and more we're just feeding that fuel source. I don't know about you guys, but after a really hard CrossFit workout, all I want to do when I'm done is go stuff my face with some pizza or, some other kind of refined carbohydrate. Can everybody kind of relate to that a little bit? Right? This person doesn't. This person finishes and is looking for avocados. You got to practice it and you got to train it a little bit. What's that? Yeah, all right. Maybe you're more efficient than you realize. That's good. So everybody kind of has a pretty good understanding, right? This is generally about 70%, maybe 75, 80 if you're a really metabolically efficient athlete of your max heart rate. This is like 80% and above, right? High output, high power, right? What we are finding through our training is that if you're really good at utilizing fat as a fuel source, you can do this all the way up to about 85% of your max heart rate. Now we're talking diet's got to have some influence. We've got to have, a little bit more ketosis maybe going on for that kind of stuff. But if you're really efficient with utilizing oxygen, you can do that 85% of your max heart rate for your majority of your fuel. Keep in mind, if you're doing that, you're not getting sore and you're going really fast. Because we all kind of assume like aerobic training is just running, just rowing, just biking. And it's like always talking and being really easy, right? Is that how you guys kind of assume like aerobic training? Or do you think of Richard Simmons? Right? I mean, it's aerobic work. And really, if we start utilizing the term aerobic just as oxidizing fat, you start to kind of think about it a little different. Okay?
I guess my question then becomes, right? So, at least in my school of thought, there's always been three main metabolic pathways.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Phosphogenic, glycolic, and oxidant.
Yeah, and they all work in conjunction. You're never utilizing just one, right? Yes. Yeah, basically not enduring fatigue. Sure, that's totally. Yeah, so what we're finding is people's ability to recover from those because of their aerobic training is improving. Does that make sense? So they don't go as far into anaerobic. Like we're talking difference of like, a sub 15-second effort. That's explosive power. We're not talking about that as like we're not saying not to do that, just so I'm clear, right? All of our programming that we're doing still involves, 15 to 20 minutes of strength training, back squat, front squat, presses, clean and jerk, snatch, all of that. What I'm saying is the majority of your training, and we'll get in. So stay with me, okay? Who kind of developed this 180 minus your age heart rate is Dr. Maffetone. Do you guys know who that is? Mark Allen from the 80s, won the Ironman 5 or 6 times now, I can't remember. But he lost it 5 or 6 times in the run to like Dave Scott and a couple other people. He then started working with Dr. Phil Maffetone. And he basically said to Mark, he says, you need to train at 180 beats minus your age. Mark laughed at him. There's some podcasts out there you can hear this discussion. And Mark laughed at him. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you'll do some interval training once your mile time it gets stagnant and you no longer get faster at 180 beats minus your age. So at the time, that's 155 beats for him. He's 25, right? That's super, like he's just laughing at you, right? He's like, no way am I going to get anywhere in this world that I'm living in. He's like, well, he eventually bought into it, right? First mile he runs, it's over 7 minutes, like 7:20 or something. 3 years later, within 3 years, he ran the same heart rate, right? 180 beats minus age, 155 beats. He ran a 5:10 mile. You guys get that, right? All we're talking about here is doing more work with less effort. That's pretty understandable in that terms, yes? Right? Because you can imagine for someone of this level, this is somebody that can run, I'm sure, very close to a 4-minute mile, right? And to be running 5-minute miles, breathing through his nose, what's mile 2 of a marathon for him, right? Everybody can agree that a 5:10 mile is pretty darn fast, right? So his next mile, maybe 5:12, 5:13, right? He's probably going to stay aerobic through that entire thing and run sub 6s the whole time. Meaning he's going to get done with his marathon, assuming that he's trained, right? Which he obviously is. And he's going to feel no fatigue, no general soreness. Got it? Staying with me here? Okay. So I took this, what I learned from this, and I learned from OPEX and James Fitzgerald here from his MAP training. I've taken what he's done and I've bastardized it a little bit. MAP training is maximum aerobic power. This is how he terms his aerobic training for his athletes. And essentially you have a MAP 10 all the way down to MAP 1. MAP 10 is an hour plus of work. MAP 9 is 45 minutes. MAP 8, 30 minutes. 7, 15. Got it? So you go all the way down to like MAP 1, which is essentially 30 on, 30 off. Now, so you would do this in interval training. Got it? So like a MAP 5 is 3 minutes of work, 1 to 2 minutes worth of rest, depending on the workout, right? So when you would do maybe 4 sets of that, rest 3 minutes, do 4 more sets. Got it? So now his terminology was as long as you could repeat it each set, it's aerobic. Well, I did this for about a year and a half. I hired them to coach me and I was always beat up. And I said, I didn't understand the fact that even though I could repeat it, and they weren't hearing me on this, they didn't understand how good I was at being threshold, right? Through the years of my training and just my ability to just bury myself into the ground, right? So I would start round 1 thinking I was going kind of easy, but I was crossed over. I was in my anaerobic. I was burning sugar 100%. Finish that one. Rest quick. Here we go again. As long as I keep hitting those numbers, I'm good, right? So I took what he did and I utilized the Maffetone method, right? So basically when I do a MAP 3 workout or a MAP 5 workout of 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, I have my athletes stay about 180 beats minus their age or whatever the PNOE tells us, the metabolic analyzer tells us, and they train at that heart rate. Okay? Still with me, everybody? Yep.
So are you saying that like essentially maybe the people are the heart rate monitor gives them a better idea of just where to stay at during the workout? Because essentially when you say, the aerobic capacity, to me that just sounds like the definition of CrossFit, right? They're gonna see that they're gonna get faster at Fran or be able to go heavier at Fran.
Sure.
For their training, so they're gonna see the same workout done at higher weights with less energy output. That's where I mean, to me as a CrossFit coach, that's what
Sure.
I'm trying to get my athletes to do is to be
Sure.
better at doing the exact same thing.
Sure.
Like that exact same thing.
Sure. And that's my goal too. My goal as well, it's just how do you go about doing it? Are you killing your athletes or are you saving their lives and changing their life?
So the best, so just be the best part about that is just where to stay at.
Correct.
Energy-wise during your workout.
Correct. What the heart.
Have the diehards, but then I
Absolutely.
have the people who, no matter how much you tell them, they're going slow.
Yeah.
They're going steady.
Yeah.
And
That person just doesn't have the central nervous system yet to have the ability to dig down into that rabbit hole. And that could be good or bad,
so
depending on their goals.
you learn how to pick it up as opposed to learn how to
With just enough training, that person, if that stop looking at me. Stop looking at me. Yeah. Yeah. So kind of one of the best things about this, totally. Yeah. Well, not really. Because you'll find that long term, if you get that person that's really, really aerobic to stay with you, they'll be your best athletes long term. Long term. It just takes them a long time, right? They haven't punished themselves in life yet. They didn't feel bad enough about themselves for something. Like no joke. They just didn't get exposed to it. Like I started my anaerobic training when I was 7, when I was running down the lane and back to prove to my dad how fast I could do it. Trying to get more love, whatever it is, right? You get that, right? But that person that can't push hard, I should have put my friend Laura up here as an influencer to this. Laura is a member of my gym. She's been with me almost from day one. She pretty much came every day, 2 days. She'd come in the morning and CrossFit with us. She'd come and lift in the evening with her gang that she loves. And this is when I was programming traditional, like, let's get after this thing, let's kill it. And everybody's sprawled, right? You take a picture, you're like, yeah, that was a good one. And you walk up to Laura and you're like, how was that? She's like, it's great. She had pretty decent output. She wasn't the fastest, but she was pretty darn good, right? But this person was really fast at adapting to movement, right? She didn't have a whole bunch of aches and pains, right? It's only just as of been late now that she's able to push herself harder because we've made her stronger, more powerful, more explosive. She can actually express that anaerobic ability where she's gotten little things that she has to slow down and take a day or two off of. Because literally, she just loves to be at the gym with her friends. You guys get that, right? Sometimes we just want to hang out and lift, right? So she was another influencer that I was like, why is this person able to do this day in and day out? Well, she's very aerobic, right? Her essence, she had done a lot of long, slow running in her life, right? We had done some stuff CrossFit style to start making that better for her to where, because being a well-rounded athlete is cool too, right? She wants to be able to sprint. She wants to be able to express an explosive snatch, right? Be fast underneath the bar, all that kind of stuff too. So that was a great segue to Laura. This is Steven Seiler. He's another influencer that if you guys look him up, you'll find all sorts of stuff on metabolic conditioning. And his claim is, or his work of study is, he studied the highest levels of Olympic endurance athletes. And this is a lot of work with the Norwegian skiers, rowers, runners, cyclists, all this, traditional endurance athletes. And what he found across the board, 90% of their training, keep in mind, this is the best athletes in the world, right? This is how they train. 90% of their time is spent at an aerobic pace. 5 to 10% is anaerobic threshold work, VO2 max work. He sees very little threshold, like that middle zone. He sees very little of that. That's just kind of like race prep. Get you used to it, right? But you're really not doing, other than just getting really good at utilizing sugar and, getting used to the pain. And, James calls it the shitty shit. You guys know what that is, right? In a CrossFit workout, about 4 minutes into a 12-minute workout, and you're like, shit, I'm in the shitty shit. This is going to go bad, right? So, just to kind of give you a sense, like the best athletes in the world are utilizing aerobic training 90% of the time. Why do we think we're special? Does that make sense to you guys? I'm not the top 2% of the world, right? I don't think anyone in the room is. No offense, right? And I kind of think we need to talk about this a little bit, but we know why this happens, right? CrossFit is a fantastic, fun program. I'm not dogging CrossFit, just so you guys know that. Like I pay my affiliate fee every year. I love Greg Glassman. I think what he does is amazing. But I'm finding that high intensity all the time is just slowing you down for what you are truly capable of. It is a quick way to lose 20 pounds, to build some muscle, right? And I'm not debating 6 weeks. There's no better way to lose some fat and to gain some muscle than CrossFit. Traditional, 4 to 8 minute AMRAPs. What I will debate though is long term. And if we really ask everybody, what are your goals? Oh, I want to be able to play with my kids. I don't want to live in a home. My goal, I don't want anybody to have to wipe my ass. And I don't joke about that. My version of hell on earth would be needing someone to take care of me, right? And I just want to make sure that I am doing everything possible to avoid that. Nobody wants to wipe my ass. No? Okay, you're good, Vaughn? I was going to call you. All right. Although this can be the result of high intensity interval training, it should not be the goal. Does that make sense? You can do high intensity training once you earn the right. Does that make sense? When you have such a robust aerobic system, It's very, very difficult to do this to yourself. Get that? You can do it, but you better be motivated and you better have a reason for it. James Fitzgerald would say the only people that need to be doing this to themselves are people that have a competition goal, right? And it's the only thing that's important to them. Do you get it? They've basically sacrificed other. If one thing that he said to me in the group, as a coach, as a trainer, as somebody that's trying to instill health in people, if you can make them more aerobic and make them stronger, you're saving their life, right? You're improving their life. Got it? Kind of takes some of this anaerobic work, kind of flips it upside down a little bit. Okay. I'm not saying it can't be done. This just shouldn't be the goal of it. High intensity work should be used to boost your aerobic system, not to just completely stress you out, inflame you, and beat you down. Now, I get it. This is fun, right? That's one thing my members that come to me are like, when are we going to do another one? I'm like, soon, we'll test. And then they'll text me that day, I don't really feel like doing that, because I got all stressed out about the test, right? All right, managing your training stress. That's what aerobic functional fitness is all about. That's my term. I kind of came up with that myself. Nobody else is using that, are they? I don't know. I'm just kidding. Okay. Heart rate aerobic training doesn't have to just be running, biking, running, swimming, skiing. Aerobic training, if done correctly and prescribed appropriately, I should have put that in there, can be wall balls, power cleans, thrusters, pull-ups, toes to bars, kettlebell swings, and yes, even double unders. Right? I think that's why I'm standing here. I've kind of come up with and it's not that hard, right? It's easy in theory, hard to instill, right? Hard to practice, okay? And this is through what we're talking about here. Just real quick benefits of aerobic functional training. Your ability to adapt to stress. It's easier to find homeostasis. We've talked about that. You reduce your inflammation, faster recovery. Did I do okay bringing all this around? Did I do okay? I'm kind of proud of myself right now, right? Faster recovery, greater range of motion, increased communication between cells. This is kind of something that real quick, right? Your cells all talk to each other, right? The more inflamed they get, the harder they have to communicate. Got it? Increase performance, Does everybody feel like right now I'm going to slow them down and they're going to get worse? Is that like what your fear is a little bit? No? Okay. That's what I hear a lot. When you start doing this and coach comes over and like, hey, your heart rate's kind of high. And you're like, hey, how about we try this? And you're like, I just want my workout, right? That's what you'll think to your head. Increase fat storage utilization, right? So if storage of fat on your body, that's kind of what I'm getting at there, right? When you're more aerobic. You improve sleep, improved energy throughout the day, reduction of sick symptoms, reduced sugar cravings, better libido, better all-around human being. Vaughn?
I was just saying to myself, I got to remember that last phrase, because you said you might ask me to share something later, and I think you're going to share some of my quantitative data, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Numbers. The one qualitative thing I can say, my observation, I feel like I am that last, well, maybe the last two, if you ask my wife. But definitely that last one, and Lonnie's hit me, right? But that last one, like, I know I'm a better teacher right now than I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
I have like massive.
Yeah, that gives me goosebumps.
Like, I know I'm better with my kids. I know I'm better with my wife. Like, and I used to like at 3 o'clock, I need to lay down and everybody,
Yeah.
from me, right? That's been, again, we can talk and we can debate and people can whatever. That has been the number one selling point to me is that last phrase. I feel better than I've felt in a long time. I feel like I'm giving more of myself, the ability to give more of myself to the people I love that are around me than I've been able to do in a long time. So take that as it is.
And is your training still fun?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
They're going to call me VO2 Vaughn.
Even when they're busting on you, huh? Can we talk about this for a minute? How's your sugar cravings? Better?
Yeah, I used to
Cool.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch like crazy.
Oh, man. And we just haven't been far enough yet, done enough testing to see this yet, correct? Okay, pretty soon? Pretty soon, ready to do some tests.
Changed your diet as well as did the.
So Max just said, no, nothing more out of a package. shit. How the hell is that? What am I gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So I went back and he told me to add fat to my diet, and I had added fat to my diet, and I don't. So I'm satiated. Like, in the UC, I could eat fat when I'm still. I'd be craving sugar because I burn so much sugar. I want more sugar, and that led to wanting more sugar, and I was really good at that. Now I find I'm satiated. It's different. I haven't eaten since noon today, and I'm fine right now.
Cool.
Like I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna kill
Sure.
some stuff later when I get home, but it's gonna be probably about mainly vegetables and meat and nuts, seeds, some
Yeah.
fruit, no starch, no sugar. I mean, that's kind of where I've gone. I feel totally.
So let me pick up on that. Now, these are based on Vaughn's goals, right? Now, I'm seeing and proving with some testing that we do that I have one of my coaches. He's leaving me for 5 months to go to the Philippines to learn to bake. He loves to bake. And when I talk to him about, hey, we need to cut back some sugar, he basically gives me the middle finger. He's like, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? But he's also past Ironman, right? So he has a huge aerobic system. We tested him. His crossover point, I'll show, this will make sense in a minute, but his crossover point was really, really early on. And I said, you can't train above 120 beats, because he's a coach. And I was like, you gotta try this. You gotta be an example. And he did it. And I have to look it up. I didn't use him as an example, but like a different human on the 2 tests. Super cool. All right, so this is Wes. He's a 40-year-old male, 6 foot, 190 pounds, trained traditional HIIT for 3 years. He came to us upon arrival. All work that he did was 90% of his max heart rate, right? All of his training, 3 to 5 days a week. Okay. He had poor shoulder mobility and basically couldn't overhead squat a 45-pound bar, right? I think we've all understand that for a 40-year-old man. You can look around any CrossFit class and you can see the 40-year-old man, and he's just like, we all can understand. Yeah, well, okay. So I want to talk about this test here was done April 10th. Okay. This was a 50-minute workout approximately for Wes. It was 4 rounds. Okay. Each round, the weight got heavier. It was 5 calories on the rower, 2 power clean and jerks. Got it? I think on this first one, he went 65, 75, 95, 115. Got it? You can kind of see it here. He spent the majority of the time about 170 to 175 beats. This first round, even still, about 170 beats. He's a little bit under there with a lighter weight. This is the same exact test done in September. I don't know, it was like September 10th or something. If you look in Sugar WOD for Wes, he was 12 minutes faster. He did this as prescribed, which was 135 he finished at, 115, 95, 75. Okay. You can see here, everything is shifted, right? You can see here at the end, he's up there near 175. Do you guys get what I'm trying to get at here? He was 10 minutes faster too. Do you get that? Yeah.
So, what does this look like inside of the gym? Like,
This was in his class.
No, I'm saying, like, do members get their heart rate monitor when they're in constant contact with you? Or is it like
Yeah.
we gotta put up TVs and
Yeah.
and then when all the members come in, we gotta, like, get them fitted to their...
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass.
Right, like a new member, like someone comes in off the street, and I'm like, well, I don't have any spare heart rate monitors.
Yeah, you would have some.
I actually got to outsource you to get your VO2 max tested, so I know how many beats per minute you need.
Yeah, we're talking about all of that.
Like, how does this look inside?
Yeah, we're getting to that. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, we're getting to that.
That's what I think everybody kind of needs to hear. This part,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, they get it. Like, they're training, they're more aerobic, they're healthier, they're
Yeah.
not trained. But what does this mean at 5:15 a.m. when someone comes in, barely can comprehend what's on the whiteboard?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to tell you as a coach, you got to be better. You're going to have to be better. Yeah. You think about, what are your people coming here for? Don't take it lightly. If you're a coach, don't take it lightly.
I agree with that, but am I track down a tablet, what everybody
Yeah. Yeah, it all does it kind of like
straps it on, you just
you strap it in. So hold on, I'll tell you. Your members are going to have a heart rate monitor on. They're going to sign up ahead of time for class. You're going to hit start. They'll show up on the screen. That's the end of your job. At the end, you upload it at the end of class. Throughout the class, you give them some guidance because you're going to have to be the leader on this. You're going to get, yeah. So how we did it, because you guys get like, I was figuring this out. I didn't make anybody buy their own. I had 20 of these heart rate monitors, and we had loaners, and it was a pain in the ass. We had to sign them in, assign their heart rate monitor, right? Eventually we got them to sign themselves in, but then they didn't know what heart rate monitor was, so they had to go over and look. Okay, and there it is. Now about 80% of our gym, because the heart rate monitor straps are gross, yeah, they started to buy their own. Now, if the heart rate monitor system is down for some reason, members are pissed. Yeah, you can buy them for $30 to $50. You know, I recommend Wahoo's. They've been the most consistent for the best price. You know, but I can tell you, when they start noticing changes not just from like a new 1RM back squat, right, or a new 2K row PR, or a new Fran PR. Lots of things go into those, right? Lots of like, how motivated was I? How recovered was I? How are my skills today? Do I feel like doing that to myself, right? But when you start seeing changes like this, whoops, you guys keep in mind, this was 50 minutes. He had done 20, 40, 60, 80 clean and jerks, right? He got done with this, showed up the next day, felt amazing. So he went from this to this, training aerobically all the time. And strength training, right? We still did our push presses, our split jerks, our clean jerks. You guys get that, right? Like, this is a big deal. You do this for people. Like, you talk to Wes, he's like, his shoulders mobility is better. He overhead squats better. He feels better on it. He would report similar things to Vaughn, right? I get it. It's hard work. It's more on the coaches. It's more on the members to learn and understand. A quick case study to show you guys like what it looks like from our metabolic test. Your PNOE, it's called. You sit the athlete down. You essentially put them on an assault bike. You start at 35 RPMs. Keep in mind, you can do this with anything now because it's just a little backpack, and you can do any kind of different exercise to show this. But we want to be consistent. This is the same 2 tests, same protocols. So he starts at 35 RPM, essentially increases 3 RPMs every minute until either we say stop because we've seen what we need to see, or he says uncle. Okay, this is his first test. He was 2 years prior a traditional CrossFit affiliate, preferred any workout under 10 minutes. He was strong. He had good quality of movements. Came to us, though, with chronic shoulders, would need to scale due to injury. Had done 2 muscle-ups in his life. He didn't have any handstand push-ups, and he had some butterfly pull-ups. Okay. This point here is what we're working on for people. If we were to analyze this is his heart rate. That says about 142, 144. If we blow this up so you guys could see it in better quality. Okay. That's that point right there. You can see like a little red line when you're looking at this. Okay. This is total calories burned. Got it? The top one in blue. The bottom one is fat utilization. Okay. Right here is what we are focusing on for people's MAF, their maximum aerobic function. So his true MAF was like 110. This is a 20-year-old kid with too much fat, right? One of his goals is becoming very inflamed. You could tell because of his constant chronic shoulders. He never had an injury. It just always hurt. Got it? So we recommended to him, we had to figure out, you just can't go above 144 for a while. I need you to do some steady state rowing at like 120, but mostly train around 135 beats. This was agonizingly slow to Alex. Okay? This is a test. So this was in July. This was at the end of August, I believe. You can see it on here, I think. It doesn't matter. It was 2 months approximately. This is 170 beats. That's his crossover. Got it? What's going on through here? Look how much fat he's utilizing. This is now 150 beats. Here it was 110 beats. Remember here, as soon as he started doing this, this is essentially fatigue inflammation. Got it? And he's rowing at 230 per 500 meters. Got it? Essentially. That's an example, right? Now, he's going all the way to 155 beats. He's rowing at 205 per 500 meters. And he hasn't really, like, he can do that until I tell him to stop, or until he needs to eat or get a drink of water. You guys get that? Like, there's no fatigue, no inflammation going on until he starts getting into this. And really, I would kind of even argue he's not getting much inflammation until fat utilization falls off and sugar really increases, right? Do you guys understand what that means for him? So during 10-minute AMRAP, right, as long as he stays around 170 beats, his performance isn't going to drop off. As long as it's not like muscle fatigue that's going to endure, right? You know, if it's a set of 40 pull-ups, right, he's going to slow down maybe just through muscle endurance fatigue. But metabolically, he's ready to roll, right?
But wouldn't it make the argument that, say, for example, right, you have an athlete who's able to perform at that same 10-minute AMRAP, right, at maybe 180 to 190, and is able to accomplish more work, same time domain.
Sure. Is he threshold? Is he anaerobic?
He could very well be.
Okay. But he's at what? So are you? I guess my question is, has he crossed over into threshold work? What's his heart rate? Right.
You know, that, what I'm going to call guy, right?
Sure.
Hey, maybe it's me,
Sure.
for example, that comes out way too hot
Mhm.
in the first 8 minutes of that 10-minute
Sure.
AMRAP, but I still do more than, say, for example, Vaughn,
Sure.
who has stayed dead nuts consistent across that same 10
In 10 years, Vaughn will beat you.
in 10 years.
10 years, Vaughn will beat you. You'll be broken. He'll be kicking ass. He'll put on 10 more pounds of muscle. He'll still be doing muscle ups. He'll be 50 years old. You'll be broke if you're doing that every day. I'm not saying you specifically, right? I'm talking about that person. I see it. Or you'll do what I was doing for years, and Vaughn can probably attribute to this. You have these peaks and valleys in your training. You get really, really good, and you're like, man, I'm fucking kicking ass. Oh, my back, shit. You're out 4 days. So now you're back down here, right? You get really, really good again. Yeah, I'm kicking out. Oh, shit, my shoulder. Now you're out for 4 days. And this could be over the lifespan, like every 6 months, right? I don't know, but that 7 to 10 days where I can't hardly walk isn't cool for my 2-year-old. You follow me? And I've hit my ceiling. I'm not you guys get it. If you push your aerobic ceiling up here, right? Claire at my gym, we'll have members every now and then when we were first starting this, like, God, I just feel like I can't go hard anymore. This same member is also having faster scores, but I just don't feel good anymore when I go hard. And Claire's like, why the fuck would you want to? Like, no joke. Like, if you don't need to go into threshold and you can still do a high volume of work, why? Now I get it. On race day, competition day, whatever that means to you, right? Could you have been better? Could Vaughn have done better if he would have gone threshold? Of course. That's what we're talking about training. Got it? Does that make sense? We're building somebody up to continue to grow. If we're going 90% every day, we're just testing every day. And we're getting really good at that. Awesome. Awesome. What's going to happen eventually? This person doesn't improve their air squat. Their shoulder mobility gets worse, right? We've seen it. Go watch the 60-year-old masters at the CrossFit Games. I'm not dogging on those. Those guys are fucking amazing. But they don't move great. They're getting the work done. They're meeting the standards, but they're not looking great, right? If you've been squatting for 5 years and you're still having collapsing arches, tight hips, we got to look at this a little bit, right? The other thing, James Fitzgerald's people, keep in mind when I refer to the OPEX clan, you guys, these are the leaders in our industry. They are teaching coaches. And if we're standing here talking about like metabolic efficiency and training, this is kindergarten class that I'm talking about. These guys teach professors. Does that make sense? So these people that are having influences in my conversation are like the leaders. And one of his assessment guys, Michael Bann, he started kind of going off on a tangent about Kelly Starrett and his mobility WOD and stretching and yoga. And he's like, that's all great stuff. He's like, I think it's amazing that, Kelly Starrett has taught people how to self-care and he has these avenues for people to take care of stuff. But he says, if you are not addressing your aerobic ability, you're never going to make any long-lasting changes. You want to change somebody's ability to move and be flexible, have more mobility, greater range of motion, increase the communication through their cells. And how to do that, make them more robust aerobically, period. He's like, discussion's over. We've seen it. Can prove it. And they've got piles of athletes that they work with. Okay. This is also Alex's in-body scan. Over this time, he went from 19% body fat to, I can't remember, 16.9, right? It's not a very long time. The two tests, those two metabolic tests that we did on him, same time domain, right? So he did lose a little bit of muscle, and Vaughn saw that a little bit. I saw on your health score, like you lost a little bit of muscle, right? Remember, we're changing him. Changing him is stressful, right? You felt kind of crappy at first, right? When you started changing your food, and yeah, it was a little bit of a transition, right? Yeah. So now we kind of have this aerobic, and I'll show Vaughn's score here in a minute, and it's what he has done is phenomenal. It couldn't have worked out better for somebody that's trying to talk more people into doing more aerobic training. To get that, like what he did and how he changed was incredible. This is also Alex. If you remember, he didn't have handstand push-ups. This was 4 rounds with 5 handstand push-ups. You rest 3 minutes. You did that 3 times. My math's not so great, but I think that's 60 handstand push-ups, right? So my philosophy is being able to be aerobic. I'm able to increase your volume, right? So you just get more reps without fatigue and breaking down and stress, right? You're able to get better. Doesn't hurt that he lost 12 pounds, right? All right, I think I'm missing a file. For your hard chargers, just so you guys understand where this one, I have it, but I must forgot to load it into this system. All right. I do want to talk about performance a little bit. So it's not just like only becoming more efficient, losing fat, feeling better. Carrie, she's a 48-year-old woman. What I would consider, your hard charger, somebody that can come in and kill it every day, reasonably good with the skills. But if you said do 27, 24, 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, row for calories and burpee, she's like, yeah, everybody's going down today. You get it? Like this person knows how to drool and get after it, right? She's also the person that when you walk over and you're like, hey, you're running a little hot. This is stupid. I just want my workout. And we have a good laugh about this now, right? Only because what she was able to do. But so we basically did this that test that I just described in April. And then we did it again just in September. And we had done a lot of aerobic training. And she texted me. She's like, should I even bother doing these tests this week? Because we had a whole week of 4-minute test, 7-minute test, that test, which is about 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And she's like, there's no way I'm going to do better. And I was like, just do it. Just see what happens. She's a minute 20 faster. This is not a deconditioned athlete. This is not someone that doesn't know how to suffer. What this is a person that after 4 minutes was still very aerobic, right? We have her training at her MAF. She did a test. Her MAF for a 48-year-old woman happens to be 147 beats, which is phenomenally high for a female at that age. It's awesome. So even though it's still slow to her, right? When she's used to going at 175 to 190 beats, she's just like, but she moves, right? And that's all I trained her at from April till now. A minute and a half faster on a 17-minute test, right? I don't know. It's a 5K, right? For some people, for really fast people. Take a minute off your 5K, right? This is old dog, new tricks, becoming efficient. This is your friend Vaughn. We took Vaughn from 143 anaerobic threshold to 167 beats. He did it. I didn't do it. I just made some suggestions. This is 143 beats, right? Vaughn, what did I tell you the first couple weeks to train at? This is like 100 and, I don't know, 15 beats, I think.
Yeah, you'll be under 120 to 125.
Yep. And just because I know Vaughn and I know his dedication to things, and I knew he wanted to do something about this, and I knew he would do what I said because he came to me. And I just said, just make sure you get some long, steady rows in because we need to charge your ability to utilize fat, right? And then you got maybe, it seemed like it was 2 or 3 weeks in, and you felt like you said you kind of feel like you're changing a little bit. And I thought I should give you a few more beats, so I let you go to 135, but nothing above 143, right? Okay. And you did all of our stuff that we're doing at TreeTown. Okay. And then this was, he's starting to utilize sugar already at like 115 beats here. That's literally like, I don't know. If he stands up, he's going to go to 100 beats. Walks over and picks up that computer, he's going to be 112. Got it? And he's already like, his system's like, whoo, need some sugar, man. Okay? He just gave himself fatigue and inflammation to pick up the computer. You get that? Stress. Now he can work all the way to 167 beats. Vaughn, what does 167 beats feel like?
Get there.
Yeah.
Hard to even get up there.
Yeah. How fast on the rower are you going?
A lot faster. I did a 30-minute row, keeping at 140.
Yep, that's your new math. Because that's this point now, not 110, right?
208, 205 to 208.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got done, my ass didn't hurt so bad for being on the rower that long. I felt like I could do it again.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. This was Vaughn's. I put this up, Vaughn. I hope this is okay with you. We have this in-body thing here. This visceral fat score went from 4 to 3. Like we said, he lost a pound of muscle, lost a little bit of fat. It's negligible in these tests, right? As far as total body mass, there's little variations. If we didn't test them, like for a woman, if you test somebody on day 5 of their cycle between day 25 on their cycle, you're going to have a huge change, right? It's not accurate in those terms. So you have to kind of take some of this with a grain of salt. What I hope to see is, do 10 to 15 tests over time with Vaughn, and the trend just continues to slowly go down. His muscle mass trends is just come up, right? But the thing that I wanted to hone in here that we will be watching this is his visceral fat score, because he's only got 12.5% body fat here, maybe 12.9, and his visceral fat was 4. And that's fat around your organs, right? It's kind of like a little bit of a glimpse under the hood as far as like leading to chronic disease, things like that. Anything over a 10. When we see over a 10, we want to have some conversations with people about food because they are opening up potential chronic disease, diabetes, overinflamed, autoimmune system type stuff, right? But when we knocked Vaughn down, so a visceral fat of 4 at this low of body fat, like my body fat is is around the same. It's like 11. My visceral score is I've seen 1 and 2. So this is pretty high for that. This is more in line. But what fat around the organs around the belly is due to stress, being overworked, high inflamed, high, constant shots of cortisol, right? So you store fat there so when you need it. Problem is when you only train high intensity, you never use it. So you just keep. And that's why a lot of us 40-year-olds, we carry this little extra bit of fat. We're like, fuck, I'm killing it in the gym. I go 4 or 5 times a week. I still got this extra layer of fat. It's not all the beer. I drink a beer a night almost, right? I'm still at about 10% body fat most of the time, right? And I train like you've seen Vaughn, the VO2 guy in the back, okay? There's genetics, there's hormone levels, there's all sorts of stuff that go into that. But I can tell you, you're not going to change any of that unless you become more aerobic. Okay, so we have these things, and I didn't want to. I almost started to put this up for Vaughn. This is okay too, yes. It's just so we utilize this at our gym as well, and it's a system survey form, and essentially, it's a whole bunch of if you were to take this and have a really high score, you probably don't feel very good. Life is pretty rough, right? And Vaughn, your score was 86 the first time. You had some stuff that's I would have expected that to be an overweight, very uninterested person in exercise. The only thing that I saw any higher was a young girl that was not a CrossFitter. Got it? On this thing. After doing this, Vaughn's score, so he did it on the first day of his Pinoy, and then he did it just the other day. When was your first one again? Late August, and it's now 1st of October. His score went to 14. You guys can see it's pretty extensive, right? And what you do is, if the symptom doesn't apply, you don't circle it. If it occurs rarely, you circle 1. 2 occurs several times a month, and 3 is almost constantly, right? I don't even really look at these. I just count up the scores and I review it, and I'm like, oh, right? This is kind of talks about what Vaughn was saying earlier, how he feels better. You guys remember that? This is kind of how we can show that, because lots of people aren't as in tune or as easily to enjoy life. Some people just want to be miserable, right? We've been around that, right? This is a way that we kind of use to even that person I'm not seeing any changes. I don't feel any better. Well, let's do this survey again, and then their score is down 10 points, right? So let's keep working on it. What are we talking about? You know what I mean? I do want to mention that one of the side effects for Vaughn has been he's sexually harassed by strangers because he now feels better. His ass won't quit, right? I mean, I'm just going to, I know he made some mistakes when he first started doing it, but there's a lot of marks, right? And Vaughn, I appreciate you allowing me to share some of this with you. Okay? Yeah. Well, you can just see the difference in chaos. Did you guys hear the change in chaos in Vaughn's life from his just example? He's not alone. We have the same kind of stuff. Vaughn was a great example because he was an extreme CrossFitter, right? I think a lot of this conversation started. Can I share what your goal? Yes. He's how realistic is it for me to make the Masters qualifier? Right? That's how we started having some conversations, right? And I can tell you, this person doesn't have a chance. He'll get injured too much. He'll be broken. You get it? He won't change his shoulder mobility, which is something that he's working on, right? This person, now we've got something to work with. This is a healthy athlete. Got it? Now we can start challenging him in different ways. Cool.
So you're saying that mobility just from spring is going to change?
Yeah. It's not overnight. Right? Remember my first.
Is that when someone says how it is, so I didn't stretch, or
Correct.
just because I worked at this heart rate and not
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also,
Just because of the inflammation.
yeah, that's most of it. Think about a tendon and a ligament, right? And when that thing is inflamed and overworked, how tight they are, right? As they get more pliable, more aerobic, better communication, you know, everything just seems to happen. Now, we're finding great results, and I like to think because as coaches, we're pretty darn attentive in class. We also, do a lot of like with shoulders, a lot of crossover symmetry and type of understanding. But when we were seeing changes with crossover symmetry, but when we started doing aerobic training, now it's like another level. Now they can actually absorb that range of motion and changes that we're putting them through. That's what we're finding. Again, none of this is like scientific proof, just case studies of what we're seeing and what people are reporting to us. Remember my Wes that he now can overhead squat like 115 pounds. He still makes the pain face, but he can do it, and he's in a reasonably good position. Okay, how does ticker training work? Well, I was kind of being a smart aleck. We determine your math heart rate. You train at your math heart rate. We recheck your math, and you train at your new math. Right? That's pretty much how it works. And then we'll check it again. Vaughn is probably in the range where if he continues to eat well, train smartly, he's going to stay there. He won't need a bunch of tests. Every now and then he might be like, I'm feeling a little bit, I was sick, whatever. He might want to do something, right? Has a life crisis. You never know, right? How do we do it? This is the Pinoe test. This is our metabolic tester. I'm proposing that I have a big day here where I come and I test everybody, right? We give you a starting point. So you have something. Nothing creates like long-term drive and dedication and motivation like seeing change, correct? You guys all kind of agree with that, right? This happens really, really fast if you do what's asked.
Do you add it to your normal class, or do you is this a special?
Yeah, this would just like for how we hold like we lump it in at our gym with a goal setting.
Class, or is it
Yeah,
you wear the heart rate and all your
you make we only have, well, in a couple days I'll have 3 of these. So we do that on ramp test with you. We're going to be branching out from that, but you essentially at my gym, you just make an appointment. We sell 2 of them for $150.
But past the appointment, so now they've got their test, they're going to wear their monitor.
Yep.
Is that they just wear it to class, or is there a
Yeah.
special class?
Nope, they just come to class. We have at our gym, and what I might propose as well is we have kind of 2 rooms. You guys still have that other side too, don't you? We have 2 rooms because we're growing so fast. At pretty much, well, I guess now 3 times a day, we offer CrossFit, and that's my ticker programming. CrossFit done with a heart rate monitor. Got it? Now, that's challenging. It's no longer good enough to just do CrossFit. We want you to do it easily. We want you to make CrossFit easy. Got it? Does that make sense? Right? So that's not always easy for the person that is anaerobic. Got it? Vaughn, CrossFit, how I was saying it, this Vaughn, was CrossFit was it really even possible?
I looked at the barbell.
Woo! Woo, I got to break a little bit, right? So we also offer these classes. We call them goal-oriented aerobic training, and it's just more monostructural work. So like a typical class might be you're going to row, let's just say the whole class is 40 minutes of rowing. Every 3 minutes you're going to get off, do 2 deadlifts at a moderately light weight, right? Kind of boring, but until you get better at it, right? Then all of a sudden next time you come in, it's every minute and a half you're going to do 3 deadlifts, 2 power cleans, and a jerk. And you're still staying aerobic. Now keep in mind, the weight's relatively light to start. Also, there's still a strength component in class. Does that make sense with you guys, kind of where I was going with that? Like we offer another class. A lot of times what our members do is they'll do a GOAT and then they'll come and CrossFit with us, right? Especially the 6 a.m. They like to go get their metabolic conditioning up, and they find that their CrossFit workouts go like really, really well. Like they're able to stay in their heart rate zones better. Their system's good and charged.
And the purpose of doing GO on top of CrossFit is that's going to have you shift your aerobic system is going to become more
Correct.
robust, and you'll move
Correct.
that direction more quickly.
It's basically like we're adding less modalities into the movements, so it's a little easier to keep your heart rate at this 120 for you, right? Because as soon as Vaughn in the early stages, as soon as he went to 150, his training was garbage for the day. He's now just playing. Do you get that? He's now just he's just goofing around in the gym, which is fine, right? But he's not becoming more metabolically efficient, right? Whatever happened, right? He just lost focus. He was quietly racing somebody. I don't know. That happens. I was racing Clifton the other day and I got a little hot. Okay. So keep in mind, right? If you're not an aerobic person, if you're or you've been CrossFitting for 7 to 8 years, this is going to be hard. You're going to have to put yourself in a little box and understand that this is training. And we'll talk a little bit more. Let's say that. Typical class for CrossFit with ticker, right? 3 minutes. So warm up might be 3 minutes on the fan bike, 30 air squats, 20 box jump, step downs, 10 goblet squats, glute bridges, monster walks, crossover symmetry, 10 kip swings, right? My belief, you won't see the need for a whole bunch of mobility. You just won't find it, right? You're going to do more of the movements to get you ready. Like, I don't know about you guys, but my first air squat's like, get in there a little bit. And by the time I get into it, I can keep everything tight and positions are better, right? We understand that. The strength, back squat, 5x4 reps, perform at 70%, tempo 3-2-x1. Do you guys familiar with tempo? Right? That would be 3 seconds down, 2 seconds hold at the bottom, explode up. Okay. We do a fair bit of tempo at our gym to focus on positions. Map 7, that's just kind of like, you'll start to get to know this. Takes a little while. This is I just pulled this from the other day. You did this, Vaughn?
Oh, yeah.
10 rounds, 7 toes to bar, 7 cals on the bike. Rest 5 minutes, do it again. Somebody do some math quick. How many toes to bars is that? Yeah. How'd you feel the next day, Vaughn?
Fine.
How'd you do today? Sets 12. All unbroken? Okay.
How long did it take you to do all that?
So it took me, I think I got like 14:47, I want to say.
On the first?
First one, and then I was slightly faster on the way home.
Yeah, that's how I always find myself doing.
So
30
30.
minutes.
30 minutes.
I mean, plus back squatting and all
Yeah.
that warm up. Are you getting that done in an hour?
And what you say about that first squat, my first squat is better than my first squat it's ever been. Like talking about trying to get to an overhead squat along with it, like talking about shoulder mobility. I have to do a warm up to my warm up to my warm up to have my shoulder warm up to do an overhead squat. Now I feel like if I can walk in the gym, I can do an overhead squat. Like I don't have to fight for that mobility because that inflammation isn't there.
I don't warm up. I shouldn't say this too often. I don't warm up anymore. I warm up with my workout now. I just feel amazing. I walk into the gym, let's go. The other day last night I went to my daughter. She's like, it's 7:30 at night. She's like, I feel like going to the gym. She's 15. I'm like, I'm never going to say no to that. I'm like, all right, let's go. She gets in there, starts doing her stuff. And I was like, well, I guess I'll test tomorrow's workout. So today's was 6 power snatches at 135.95, 9 calories on the bike, 12 toes to bars, 4 sets. You rested 2 minutes after a set, right? Well, I just started doing that. I put 135 on. 1, 2, 6. Got it. Wasn't a great math first set, but it got better because I didn't charge my system. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying, like, I'm 43. I CrossFitted the day before. You guys get that? I ended up doing 10 rounds of what I just talked about because my daughter was still going, and I was like, well, I'll just keep going. So I did 10 rounds. So I did 60 snatches, 90 cals, 120 toes to bars. Right? We have people. We did a workout. Did you do that 50-minute workout? Were you with us yet?
Which one was it? I did a 50-minute workout.
7 pull-ups, 7 cals on the bike, 7 handstand push-ups, 7 toes to bars, 7 cals on the bike,
I don't think I did that.
7 push-ups. We did this 50-minute pull-ups, push-ups, handstands, toes to bars. We had 88 people come through the gym that day. I don't know about you guys, but like a year ago, I saw a 50-minute workout. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? When I program a 5K row, aerobic row, gym is packed. People love it now. They understand the value of it. They love it. They understand the difference. We talk about this right here: testing, racing, competing. These are all the same, essentially the same. Like anaerobic, potentially. This can be aerobic too, depending on what's prescribed. But you guys get like the amount of stress that you induce here, right? Yes. This screams like nervousness. Like I'm starting to sweat just thinking about it. I don't know about you guys, but when I was doing my traditional programming, like I would literally be ready at the bar, and I'm like, I gotta go pee. I'm nervous right now. It's Wednesday, 7 a.m. Now it's Thursday, 7 a.m. Oh my God, I gotta go pee before I start this. I'm nervous. Do you guys get the amount of stress and strain just preparing for that? Now you walk in, you're just like, yeah, what are we doing? Sweet. Oh, and it's making me better, right? Training versus competing. Training should be training. What are you training for, right? Your goal has an impact, right? Now, Vaughn has done a ton of aerobic training. If his goal is still to make the Masters qualifier, we may or may not have time now this year. I don't know, right? But now he's got to continue on this aerobic training, and we're going to have to start stretching his ability in that. We're going to have to start loading him more, right? The idea and the concept is that I've made him more aerobic, more robust. Now he can handle the volume of squatting, heavy squats, right? It's not your motor it's not your ability to endure that was keeping you from the qualifier. It was the ability to put on muscle and get stronger, right? So now we can focus on that for him. He'll still just do aerobic training. I guarantee I can make a switch for Vaughn with threshold work. So example, my gym right now, CrossFit TreeTown, they are really, really good at aerobic work. We started at map 1 and we worked all the way up to map 10, basically doing map 1 for a week, map 2 for a week, map 3 for a week, map 4, map 5. Now in the gym at map 5, they struggled because that's more like 3 to 5 minutes worth of work. And keep in mind, these are your people, right? You guys know what that means. 5 minutes of work. It's generally, you're already aerobic. If I were to throw him into this without a lot of education, right? And you're not an aerobic person, that time domain is very, very difficult. You're going to see a lot of 90%. So we stayed there a while. They needed more practice, more aerobic building, just understanding what it means to pace, right? The runner understands it. The CrossFitter doesn't get it, right? But once you learn to pace, then all of a sudden I went to map 8, map 9. These are 40-minute efforts, and I'm looking up at the board, the heart rate monitors, and I'm not seeing anything above 80%, right? No red. They're adapting. So we got all the way to 10. Now we're working our way back down, and people are like, "Wow, I'm really going fast." You know what I mean? They're going to start map 5 next week. And you finish and you're just like, whoa, I'm still at 80%. That was a lot of work I just did. You guys get how that happens? And then when they go to 3, when they get to map 1, I can't wait because the complaint in the gym will be, it's not enough time to get my heart rate up anymore. And I'm just going to smile, say you're welcome, right? Now it takes more. That's not enough time. Do you get that? Not enough time. Now they have to increase the load. They've got to increase now they got to go to 30 reps of something to get their heart rate up that high in a minute. Get it? It takes time. So a lot of your workouts right now, they're small. Like if you start this, when you start, it's smaller quantities of work right? Smaller sets at lighter weights, right? As you grow, right, in your ability to get aerobic, let's say one workout, it's, so let's go back to this. So this was now, let's say in 6 months, I hope this is 10 rounds of 9 and 5. 9 toes to bars, 5 cals, right? Keep in mind, this is how I'm keeping you relatively aerobic here, right? Hopefully you become strong enough here. Your toes to bars are getting better. Do you guys see where this is going? Let's say this was power cleans. Today it was 95 pounds. 6 months, hopefully it's 115. A year from now, it's 135. And you're doing, then the numbers increasing as well, right? Your amount of work is going up. You're stronger. You feel better. You're moving better. You're more aerobic. You're more robust. And you're finishing this and you're ready for more. Well, you probably like can't get enough, can you?
I feel like sometimes I'm done. If someone said you have to go again, I could. That's just very different than what we do. Usually someone says get up off the floor, like give me a minute.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk more about this if you guys like kind of like are into this. I also program some stuff at my gym called EP. It's just TreeTown Extra Programming, and it kind of picks up where like traditional classes leave off. Like for general pop, like you can't have muscle ups every week and have pull ups potentially because that person is going to be just doing ring rows and pull ups, the same thing all the time, right? So it's not very fun. You can overwork them, right? So we have progressive EP 4 days a week. Have you been doing any of that yet? You're getting started. Cool. And that's more skill oriented. We take the leash off a little bit on that heart rate. Still expected to be in control, right? And you should know what that means. For you, Vaughn, that's about 165 beats. You see too much of that, you're like, this is not helping me. It's taking away from your strength training that you should be doing. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? You're just beating yourself up for no reason. That's kind of all I have for you guys. Any major questions? To kind of pick up on like how classes run, at first it was a battle for us as coaches. First of all, I didn't have results to show. So I was just constantly like just basically begging my members to please play along, right? And they're like, I don't get it. I need to be going hard all the time to get better, right? And that's the mentality that we have. And I was there, so I got it. I was just like, the research doesn't show that, you guys. Doesn't show it. Ask